All right, guys, so we are now going to be working in our Chapter 2 packet. So you need to make sure your packet in front of you looks like the one on the screen. So it's Chapter 2, and we're going to start talking about the impact of geography on different things. So before we can talk about the impact of geography, we have to know what exactly is geography. So we are going to start here on this section of what is geography. So Earth is a big place with an incredible variety of physical environments. There are dry deserts and frozen tundra, rolling hills and towering mountains, coastal plains and swampy lowlands, and so much more. The study of Earth's many physical environments is called geography. So let's go ahead and let's get our highlighters out. And we are going to highlight because we have a vocabulary word here. So we're going to highlight the study of Earth's many physical environments is called geography. So I want you to stop and think about what you think physical environments are. I'm hoping you're talking to yourself and you're talking about how physical environments are all of these described here: the dry deserts, the frozen tundra, rolling hills, the mountains, plains. So all of that is our physical environment. So I'm going to make a box like this, and you need to put a note on the side. Man, I'm really not good at using a mouse to write, guys. EX means example of physical environments. Mine's not going to fit, so I'm not going to put. You guys can write the whole word. Pause the video if you need time to write this out. All right, let's look at paragraph 2. It says geography is not just about physical features. Geography is about people too. Geographers study where people live and how people interact with their physical environments. So, what's super important in this paragraph is that we also study where people live and how they interact with their physical environments. Think about where we live, whether you live in Auburn or Bethlehem or Winder or Statham. Just think about Barrow County and think about our physical environment. We don't really have a dry desert. We don't have huge towering mountains. We don't have swampy lowlands. We do have some rolling hills because we have a lot of farms. So think about how all the people and how you interact with your physical environment that you live in. And that is part of the study of geography. All right, let's look at our third paragraph. It's not going to let me scroll. Okay, it says, as you study countries around the world, you will explore their many locations, climates, and natural resources. You will see that these factors influence a great number of things, including population distribution, which is where people live, economic activities, which is what people produce, and trade, which is how people exchange goods. So when we are highlighting, I can see that there is a lot of bolded words in this paragraph. But I can also see that location, climate, and natural resources have their own boxes here on the side. So I'm actually not going to highlight anything for that. But I am going to highlight population distribution, which is where people live, economic activities, which is what people produce, and then trade, which is how people exchange goods. Now, let's read what exactly location is. So I'm in this box up here that says location. I'm at this box right here. So it says location describes where a place is, such as the northern or southern hemisphere. Location also describes if a place is near or far from other places. So think about it. We just got done studying absolute location and coordinates and latitude and longitude. So we should have an idea of what location is. Winder. Winder is a location. Westside Middle School. That is a location. Your house. That is a location. So you guys should understand what a location is. If you want to, you can highlight location describes where a place is. Let's look at the next box. It says climate. So climate is the typical weather of a specific area, including seasonal cycles, average temperatures, and annual precipitation. Precipitation is rain and how much rain we get. So climate is the typical weather of a specific area. And what it means by this, if again, we're going to look at Barrow County. Barrow County, our typical weather is our summers are very hot. We normally get a lot of thunderstorms in the afternoon. And then our falls seem to cool off. Our winters are kind of cold. We don't really get snow. We don't really get ice. And then the spring, we have a really nice warm spring and we get a lot of rain. So that's the climate for our specific area. If you look at the climate of Alaska, where Miss Shepherd is from, that climate is a lot different than Barrow County climate. Okay, so they're going to have a lot more snow. They're not going to have the hot summers that we have. So that's what it means by the climate is a typical weather of a specific area. All right, let's look at this last box here. It says natural resources. Natural resources are materials from Earth that people use to produce goods and services. Natural resources include water, soil, forests, minerals, livestock, and more. So we can go ahead and put that natural resources are materials from Earth that people use to produce goods and services. And then it gives you some examples here. So this is what naturally comes from the earth. So what I want you to do, we're going to read the discuss it, and then you guys can pause your video, and complete it on your own. Okay, so let's look at discuss it. It says use what you know about Georgia to understand the concepts of geography. So first, you're going to describe Georgia's location and climate. So I'm going to highlight that in one color so you can see. So the first thing you need to do is describe Georgia's location and climate. Okay, you're going to discuss how our location and climate affect the number of people who live here. Then you're going to make a list of some of the natural resources in Georgia. You're going to discuss how these, I need that to go away. We're going to discuss how these resources impact which goods and services are produced in Georgia. So go ahead and pause the video and get out a piece of paper and write down your discuss it. All right, welcome back. So this is going to be our last page that we're going to do today. So we're going to read about the impact on population. So just like it does in Georgia, geography affects where people live all around the world. Some areas have high populations, which means that there are lots of people, which it says high populations with millions of people, while other areas have scarcely populated at all. That means that there are barely any people that live there. What makes a location favorable for human life? Well, the right climate and the right resources, of course. So, when we look at the phrase favorable for human life, that means what factors make it easy for humans to live in that location. And we're going to study this a little more. So let's go ahead and highlight that geography affects where people live all around the world. All right, let's read our impact of climate box. It says people are more likely to live in locations with temperate or mild climates and adequate rainfall. In contrast, very few people live in dry deserts or the freezing Antarctic tundra. Mild climates and adequate rainfall make it easier for people to meet their needs and wants. So we are going to have more people that live in these temperate climates, which have mild climates like Georgia and have rainfall, versus living in the tundra, which is pretty much ice, it's a frozen land, or the really hot, dry deserts, because it's really hard to live in those areas. Let's look at our impact. We're going to go ahead that people are more likely to live in locations with temperate climates and adequate rainfall. Let's go ahead and look at our impact of natural resources. Because remember, we said that the right climate and right resources affects where people live. So it says people are more likely to live in locations with many natural resources, such as clean water and soil. Why? People need natural resources to grow food, build shelters, make goods for trading, and to build a strong economy. So that is why people are more likely to live in locations with many natural resources. If we look at Barrow County, there's many trees, there's access to water, we have good soil for farming. So we're able to grow food, we're able to build our shelters here, people are able to make things to trade, and we have a pretty strong economy in Barrow County. So our location is a good location. All right, this is the last thing that you guys are going to do for today. And honestly, these pictures are not super, super great, so we're going to talk about the pictures, and you guys are going to we're going to kind of do this together. So the first thing, when we're given an activity, the first thing we do is we read our directions. It says examine the photos of 2 locations, then answer the questions. So let's go ahead and let's look at photo A. It says the Sichuan River, which is in China, is surrounded by rice fields and urban development. So now, for number 1, before we move on to B, go ahead and answer number 1. Describe the climate and resources you see in location A. So I want you to think about this. If we have a river, we have rice fields, and we have urban development, which is buildings, cities, and everything, what do you think, with everything you just learned, what do you think the climate is going to be like in China in this picture? Go ahead and pause the video and write it out. Now let's look at the resources. So it says describe the climate and resources. So it tells you that there are rice fields. So obviously resources would be your rice field. It shows you a picture of a river. So the river is another resource. So go ahead and write down some of the resources based off of those 2 things that we see in location A. All right, let's look at picture B so we can answer number 2. Picture B says the Arctic tundra, which is Russia, experiences little to no plant growth for much of the year. So this picture, to me, I know I have a printed picture in front of me as well. It looks just as good as the one on the screen here, but it pretty much looks like we are in frozen mountains here. So go ahead and describe the climate and resources that we see in B. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need more time. All right, so the last question, last thing for the day today is which location, A or B, supports a higher population? And you're going to explain why. So do you think more people are going to live in picture A or picture B? And then you're going to say why. Remember, we are in middle school. We need to be practicing writing full sentences, especially when the question says explain why.